something interesting happened here. You see this melodic motif. It's the same thing that the bass picked up later on. And this is something that we'll be coming to a little later, but I want you to keep this in mind, where the same pattern gets picked up by another instrument or another voice a little later on. We will be coming back to that when we discuss counterpoint in a bit. Again from the top. So this is the kind of music that existed before the Renaissance era, before instruments actually started coming into the picture. And then, like I said, the four instruments. The first few instruments to be introduced were the violin, viola, cello, bass, corresponding to the soprano, alto, tenor, and bass frequencies. So the bass, as you've probably seen before, it's a really large instrument, difficult to lug around in modern times. So imagine 400 years back without cars and tempos and whatnot to take you around. It wasn't really an instrument that one could lug around. So only some of the richer cathedrals, the richer performance venues would have basses with them, but players generally didn't. And some of the not very well-funded cathedrals also couldn't afford to have an instrument, and maintain an instrument of this size with them. So, which is why, again, because the availability of this instrument wasn't as much as, say, the violin, viola, cello, most of the music written was with violin, viola, and cello in mind. Now, these instruments don't exactly correspond to the soprano, alto, tenor, bass as voices, because the cello is between bass and alto. The viola is between bass and tenor. Viola is between tenor and alto. The violin can go into the alto territory on the lower strings and goes above the soprano territory on the higher strings. So it's not an exact soprano, alto, tenor, bass thing. So because cello was capable of going, like, human voice rarely goes below the register of a cello. So cello could take the bass voice of the choir section to begin with. So most of the music was written as a string quartet, and that's a term you've probably heard before, a string quartet. So string quartet is made of violin, two violins, one viola, and a cello. So the uppermost violin, the violin 1, takes care of the soprano, alto, tenor, and bass respectively. So 2 violins, 1 viola, 1 cello is the general format for a string quartet. And then you have the concept of a string quintet, where you have these 4 and the bass gets added into it. So during the Baroque era especially, bass did not get used as much as the standard string section that we were familiar with. So when you listen to the music of Bach and Handel and Vivaldi, not much usage of bass. Maybe a few pieces here and there will have a little bit of bass, but nothing fantastic, nothing out of the world, like the way Bach wrote for the violin and for the cello. Not as much for the bass. The works of Bach not really huge on the bass front. It's when the orchestra, the symphonic orchestra, started developing is when the bass started coming into the picture, and that was around the end of the Baroque era, beginning of the classical era, and that's when the bass actually started coming into the picture. Because so okay, difference between just string section and symphonic orchestra is string section will have, so string quartet is just 4 players, 2 violins, 1 viola, 1 cello. The string section can have multiples of each instrument. So we'll have now it depends, but the general is 8, 8, 4, and 2. Larger symphonic orchestras obviously will go up to 16, 16, whatever. There's multiple different variations of this that can happen. But so this is a string section: violin, viola, cello, bass, and multiple players taking that. But when we say symphonic orchestra, it includes the woodwind section, the brass section, other string instruments like the harp, which don't generally get counted in the violin family of string sections. You'll have a percussion section. You'll have the triangles, the timpani, glockenspiel, piano, whatever. So this whole thing, and the choir, the 4 layers of the choir: soprano, alto, tenor, bass. This whole production is what you would refer to as a symphonic orchestra. When you hear the term symphonic orchestra, that's what it generally implies, that it's this whole 150 to 200 people production on stage performing a certain work. So when this orchestra started evolving, and you had these many number of instruments, this huge array of instruments, that is when the voices even below the cello gained an importance. So you have the tuba in the brass section, and you have the double bass in the string section, which these two really carried the lowest frequencies below the human voice. And when you have those many instruments, that bass layer becomes that much more important, because otherwise it's just all getting cramped in one space, and that bass layer enveloping started gaining a lot of importance. So classical era, you'll find a lot more, classical era onwards, you'll find a lot more examples of the bass. So okay, I hope you just make some, if you are going to compose for this anytime soon, I would recommend making notes. Otherwise, you can find this information anywhere. You find this on the internet, but just to kind of give you an idea of the tuning and the ranges. So each of these instruments that we spoke about has 4 strings. So the violin has the G, D, A, and E. So the violin is tuned to fifths. G going up to D, going up to A, going up to E. So the lowest sounding string is the G. So G2, D3, A3, and E4. It can go as high as G6 even, which is like a very, very, very shrill sound. But the optimal range is up to C6-ish. You'll not find, especially in the classical, up to the romantic eras, you'll not find music written beyond this. It's in the 20th century where composers really started pushing the boundaries of what instruments can and are supposed to do, is when you'll find a lot of music written beyond this. You know what the violin sounds like, but here's a little bit of example. So this is the violin. The next up is the viola. Viola, also four-string instrument, slightly larger than the violin, about 3 to 4 inches larger than the violin. The next lower sounding instrument below the violin. So it does not have the E string and has a C lower, so it's a fifth lower than the violin. So the viola is tuned C, G, D, A. I've given you the range, but again, just find this online. Here's what the viola sounds like. So when you're writing for a string section, the violin you'll generally write, especially when you're writing for the first violins, you'll generally write them in the higher registers. A3 onwards is where you'll write it, because that is the range that no other instrument in the string section has. So the A and the E are the brightest sounding strings on the violin. It's not known for its warmth. The violin as an instrument is supposed to be a bright and brilliant instrument. It's not supposed to be a warm sounding instrument. You want warmth, you go into the lower registers with the viola and the cello. So when you're writing music for the violin, you will tend to stick to A3 onwards, 2 octaves on from there. That's for the violin 1. The violin 2, which is going to be more of a supporting layer to your first violins, will have in the lower 2 strings, we'll have it on the G and D, a little bit just treading along the A string every now and then, but generally sticking to the G and D. Now when you write music for the viola, that is where you get that extra string underneath, you get that C underneath, which the violin does not have. So when you're writing for the viola, you're going to exploit that string more than any other thing, because the other strings are covered by the violin anyway. The C string is what the violin doesn't have. So you're going to exploit that, because that is the color of the viola. That is the main sound for the viola. Because if you're composing for the viola and sticking to the GD, A strings, might as well be for the violin anyway. Why do you need that viola in your section in the first place? Of course, the timbre changes, the sound quality is going to change, but when you're writing for viola, you're going to want to exploit those notes on the C string to bring out a color, a flavor that the violin does not have, is not capable of. The next in line is the cello, which is also the CGDA, but exactly 1 octave below the viola. So again, just in the same principle, when you write for the cello, you're going to use notes that aren't available on the viola and the violin. You're going to try to stick to the lower registers, the octave below the C of the viola. Because again, otherwise there's no point of having the cello in your string section. You could just may as well use the violins and violas. So cello, you would want to exploit that octave of C that's below the viola. So here's an example of what the cello sounds like. is being played. So that's the cello, and then the next in line is the bass. So all the instruments that we've seen so far are tuned to fifths. The violin being G, D, A, E, the viola and cello being C, G, D, A. All of them tuned to fifths. Bass is the only instrument that's tuned to fourths. So you have E being the lowest one, E, A, D, G, which is the exact same as the electric bass that we see now. So it's in the same register. The contrabass is the predecessor to the modern day electric bass. Same strings, E, A, D, G, going fourth up. So again, when you're writing for the bass, you're going to want to stick to what's below the cello, right? You're going to want to stick to this zone below the C1. Exploit that range from E0 to C1, because that's the sound that none of the other instruments can produce. And again, this is strictly speaking when we're composing for a string section. When you're composing for individual instruments, when you're composing for solo, the game is entirely different, and you can and are supposed to exploit the entire range of the instrument. But when you're composing for a section, you have to keep the ranges in mind and make sure that you utilize the sections that aren't available for the other instruments, so that you can create a sound that's unique to that instrument and give enough contribution for that instrument to be a part of your section. So here's an example of what the entire quintet will sound like. So you'll see two violins, a viola, a cello, and a bass. You'll see very frequently, and this is also going to happen very naturally when you're composing, that the main melody is given to the highest sounding member. So the violin one generally is going to be carrying the main melody of whatever you're writing. And you'll see this holds true for a good 70-80% of the cases where the violins or the higher sounding member in any of the instrument categories, be it the piccolo or flute, in the woodwinds, the trumpets, the violins, the highest sounding member generally carries the main melody, and the lower sounding elements are going to be taking care of the harmonies or doing the backing layers of sorts. And again, this is a guideline, not a rule in any sense of the word, because the Beethoven's Ninth, the Ode to Joy, you've heard that tune. It's a tune that you may be familiar with. So if you listen to the entire symphonic orchestra version of Ode to Joy, the first time that you hear the melody in the fourth movement towards the end of the piece, the first time that you hear this melody, the main melody, is actually introduced by the bass. The entire orchestra is quiet, and you have only the basses playing that melody for the first time, which then gets transferred to the cello, then gets transferred to the viola, and then the last ones to get it in the string section are the violins. After which, the main melody goes into the wind section. So it's just the same melody that's traveling between different sections. And the first time that you hear the melody is on the bass. Which is why I said it's by no means is it a rule that you have to write the main melody for the higher string. It's generally used because it's the highest layer is going to come out in the most piercing manner and is going to reach the audience, reach the listener very quickly, but in no way is that a rule. So every now and then, even when you're listening to a string section, and this is as a listener as well, try to focus who has the melody at a given point in time. Just try to focus on which instrument has the main melody and the others are backing it up, and you'll realize how craftily and how smartly these sections are written, how these pieces of music are written where the melody is just bouncing around between different instruments, and they just sound like one complete unit, where there'll be a lot of pieces where neither of them are the main instrument and the harmonic instrument. All of them together are creating this sound, and every instrument is just as contributing to the main melody just as much as the other. So this is something that we get to see every now and then, which is genius writing. Now we come. So yes.
Question.
Yes.
Can we shift bass strings like viola or cello in violin? Is experiment.
So you can put whatever strings you want on the violin, but the body is constructed in such a way that it does not allow for the resonance of the lower notes. Now I'm sure you've been taught this at some point, that the lower sounding notes, the wavelength is longer.
Right.
So the body of the violin is not long enough to accommodate for the sound to resonate inside the chamber. So the viola, to accommodate for that lower C, the body of the viola is a lot larger. Only then is it going to bring out the sound that you want properly enough. If you put a lower string on the violin, it's just going to sound shaky. Like, okay, let's do this. So the lower sounding string on the violin is this G. So you hear the resonance that's possible with this. Right? Rings out for a while. And it's giving out some weird overtones. Doesn't hold the tone in the same way and rings out some random notes which we don't really want, because the body is not made for those lower strings. So, which is why it's always a better idea to use the lower instrument instead of trying to change the strings of the instrument, but tuning it weirdly. Yeah.